desperate little girl starves for 5 days. Revealed, a millionaire's hidden act changes everything. The narrow streets echoed with laughter from the kids who rode bikes in the summer sun. But 10-year-old Sara wasn't one of them. She sat cross-legged on the worn carpet of their tiny living room, her stomach growling as the days melded into an unending blur of worry and hunger. The faint sound of sirens outside reminded her too much of the struggles that seemed to cling to her neighborhood like a stubborn shadow. Her mom had always worked too hard for their little family, juggling multiple jobs, but the last couple of weeks had been different. "Sara, promise me you'll be strong," her mother's trembling voice had whispered before she slipped into a feverish sleep, leaving Sara to fend for herself. Each day, she found herself scavenging for scraps, forcing herself to stretch their dwindling resources while clinging to her mother's mantra that hard work would always pay off. 7 days without a proper meal was horror she had never imagined. Meanwhile, next door, Mark was counting the days since he had last seen the outside world. The reclusive millionaire peered through his dusty window, trying to distract himself from the oppressive guilt that his wealth seemed to carry. The neighborhood buzzed with life just a few steps away, yet he felt miles apart, burdened by a fortune he hadn't earned. His childhood laughter echoed in his mind, but he couldn't remember the last time he felt a genuine connection with anyone. As whispers of Sara's plight began to circulate among the community, the bright light that once shone within her dimmed. The good folks of the neighborhood took pride in standing united, always trying to help anyone in need, but Sara's hidden suffering had slipped through their fingers unnoticed. Until one day, a local veteran named Joe, battle-hardened but soft-hearted, finally caught wind of her struggle. "Not on my watch," he said, pushing through the door of Sara's home with determination in his step and a plan in his heart. His kindness sparked a fire in others. Neighbors rallied, bringing meals, medicine, and much-needed support. Sara looked up, her eyes wide, absorbing the warmth that flickered through the shadows that had haunted her days. Just as Mark scrolled through his newsfeed, he found stories about the community rallying around a little girl named Sara. That name jolted him. He remembered the sweet giggles of children nestled in their inner-city world, the very world he had grown distant from. The guilt within him swelled as he glanced at the vibrant life flourishing outside his door. He physically felt the disconnect gnawing at him with each passing moment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow.
If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Sara's heart raced as the neighbors' generosity filled their house with life. Her mother would recover. She believed that truly. Hope glimmered for the first time through their grime-streaked window. But just as Mark fumbled with the door to step out of his sanctuary, a sudden news bulletin broke on the radio that froze him in place. Some broken shreds of his past bubbled to the surface, threatening everything he thought he knew. With his resolve hanging by a thread, Mark stood at the edge of a precipice. Could he truly make a difference, or would he let the echoes of his privilege haunt him forever? Behind him, the laughter continued, while the warmth of kindness began to blossom in the hearts of the community. But would it be enough before the shadows of despair swallowed them whole? Sara's eyes widened as soon as she heard the knock on the door. It was a sound she hadn't expected amidst the commotion of neighbors trying to support them. Joe was standing there, a comforting presence amidst the chaos, his arms filled with bags of groceries and a radiant smile that felt like a warm embrace. "I've brought some food and supplies, Sara," he said gently. "Your mom's going to be okay. We're all here for you." With trembling fingers, Sara reached for a box of cereal, feeling the crucial energy that surged through her at the sight of real food. For a moment, she felt guilt creep in, wanting so desperately to refuse help, but Joe's steady gaze told her it was okay. It wasn't about her pride. It was about survival, about her mom. While the food was being unpacked, laughter and chatter filled the space. Neighbors who had once barely exchanged hellos now gathered, sharing stories and piecing together a plan to ensure Sara and her mom were cared for. Their kindness was a lifeline, and Sara could hardly grasp the magnitude of what was happening. As the days passed, it began to feel like a dream a cascade of support that washed over her fears and could perhaps carry her through. Just next door, Mark watched from his window, his heart heavy but hopeful. He was struck by the sight of community spirit flourishing in a way he hadn't seen in years. People cared, and they were showing it in a profound way. He could almost hear the laughter filtering through the thick walls of his mansion. The reality of his isolation felt cruel now, piercing at the corners of his heart. Wasn't it time for him to step outside his self-imposed exile? With every story that crossed his feed, every uplifting moment shared about Sara, he felt the urgency building within him. What if he had the power to change things?
Just a single act could ripple outwards, shifting the dynamic of not just his life, but countless others. Determined, Mark finally turned away from the glow of his screen and took a single step toward the door. It wasn't just about letting in the light for him. It was about breaking barriers that had silenced his conscience for too long. As he opened the door, the warmth of the late afternoon sun hit him. A smile crept onto his face, but it was tinged with a nervous energy. What would he say? What impact could he possibly have? He could hear the laughter, see vibrant kids darting around as they played. It made his heart ache for connection, for human interaction that wasn't through glass. When he finally reached Sara's door, he could see a group of neighbors. They were gathered in a circle, chatting animatedly while someone was preparing a meal on a stovetop. Just then, he locked eyes with Joe. The kindness radiating from the older man's face hit him like a wave. Maybe this was where he belonged. As if sensing his presence, Sara turned, looking frail but so full of wonder amidst the chaos. Her gaze brushed over Mark, a flicker of recognition sparking in her eyes. "Can I help?" He finally found his voice, breaking through the noise. Every neighbor paused, the atmosphere shifted, and Sara's expression changed as she processed the unexpected offer. The energy felt electric, a moment frozen in time. Mark's insistent desire to make things right seemed to resonate. But before Sara could respond or others could react, a siren wailed in the distance, unnervingly loud and underlaying. It sent a chill through the air, a sudden reminder of their reality. Was this community strength enough to face what was lurking nearby? How would they rise to the new challenge that awaited them? And as they all stood there, a new darkness loomed, silently whispering whether hope could truly withstand the storms approaching. The siren continued its wail, a sharp sound that cut through the laughter and chatter like a knife. The faces of the neighbors hardened momentarily in shared concern. Each person seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the echo to fade, for a moment of normality to return. But the heavy air weighed down on them, filling the room with an unsettling tension. Sara blinked rapidly, her heart racing. She searched the crowd for signs of reassurance, but found only concerned expressions and exchanged glances. She felt the reality of her mom's illness grip her heart again, tighter than before. And then she turned back to Mark, whose anxious face mirrored her own fears. Yes, you can help," Sara said, her voice surprisingly steady. "We're trying to get things organized here, for when my mom comes home." Mark stepped forward, the uncertainty still evident in his eyes, but he noticed something about Sara that sparked a sense of purpose in him. She wasn't just a fragile girl trapped in turmoil. She was fighting, and that made him want to fight too.
"Let's start with the groceries," he suggested, glancing at Joe. "I can help carry some of those in." As he moved, a hushed murmur rippled through the crowd, a mix of surprise and approval. It felt different, like a small spark igniting a flame. Joe nodded, his smile broadening. "Great idea. We can make a meal together while we plan for the week." Sara felt a rush of gratitude, a glimmer of light amidst her worries. She put on a brave face and directed Mark to where the bags were piled. As he bent down to lift an enormous sack, she noticed how determined he looked, like someone ready to take on the world. "I'm glad you came," she added, a faint smile breaking through. "Even if it's just groceries, every bit helps." Mark glanced over at her, genuine warmth spreading across his face. "I know it doesn't seem like much, but I want to be here for you, for your family." Each bag they unpacked became a small victory. They filled the kitchen with vegetable scents and the sounds of laughter, simmering down the tension that had gripped them minutes before. Neighbors bustled around, each person working together seamlessly, while the kids played outside, their laughter floating in through the open window. But the looming shadow of the sirens still crawled around the edges of Sara's mind. Though the activity felt good, she couldn't shake the anxiety that clung to her. What if there were bad news? She felt the flutter in her chest again, the weight of her worry. A sharp knock suddenly erupted at the door again, echoing through the lively chatter like thunder. Everyone turned, eyes wide, the atmosphere shifting. Sara felt her heart drop. Was it more bad news? As the door swung open, a figure stepped inside. It was Officer Reynolds, his demeanor serious. The laughter faded, the buzz of energy shrank. The community, once filled with hope and light, suddenly felt heavy again, like the storm cloud that had been threatening rain. Sara's breath caught in her throat. Everyone looked at the officer. What news would he bring? "Can we speak to you, Sara?" Officer Reynolds asked, and her stomach twisted. Just when she thought they were moving forward, reality sidled in again with a grim reminder. Would this day open new doors for her family, or would it slam shut everything they were trying to build? As they exchanged worried glances, the weight of their unsteady hope was palpable. Sara felt it crush down around her, the uncertainty growing thicker. What could he possibly have to say that would alter the course of their fragile day? And was this a move toward healing, or another step deeper into despair? Sara's heart raced as she met Officer Reynolds' gaze. The gentle murmur of voices faded, replaced by a silence that rang in her ears. The atmosphere shifted, and even the tiny sounds in the room, the bubbling pots, the distant laughter from outside, seemed to quiet, as if the world held its breath along with her. "What's going on?"
she managed to ask, her voice trembling but determined. The officer stepped further into the room, ushering the gathered neighbors to subtly part, creating a clear path between him and Sara. She could sense the unease written on their faces, the way they whispered in hushed tones, their brows knitted in worry. This was serious. "Sara," Officer Reynolds began, and she could see the weight of his words stacking on his shoulders. "I spoke with your mom's doctor. It's important we have a conversation about her health." At that moment, dread washed over her, pushing her thoughts into a dark spiral. What was happening? Had something gone wrong? Was she going to hear news that would break her heart completely? "Sara," he continued, "your mother, she's stable but needs more care than initially expected. We want to make sure she has everything necessary when she comes back home." The words were cold comfort, though they carried a hint of hope. Her eyes darted toward Mark, who stood frozen, his brow furrowed with confusion. He didn't know any more than she did, but the look on his face urged her to focus, to listen carefully. "What does that mean?" she asked, her voice dropping to a whisper as a lump formed in her throat. Is she going to be okay?" "Your mother is a fighter, Sara. We are working on a plan to ensure she has the support she needs. We need your family to be prepared for when she returns. There are resources available for home health care," he explained, his tone steady, but a shadow danced in his eyes. Sara walked toward the window, needing the sunlight on her face. She felt the warmth, yet inside the chill of fear remained. I don't know if we can handle all of that," she said, biting her lip. The officer stepped closer, his voice softening. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're not alone in this." A comforting hand rested on her shoulder, and she could almost feel his empathy wrap around her like a blanket. Those words struck a chord deep within her, nudging her to recognize that she didn't have to bear this burden alone. Somehow there was still light amid the looming shadows. "They might even help with meals and medication delivery," he added, and suddenly she could imagine the crowded kitchen again, laughter blending with the smell of home-cooked meals. Mark broke through her thoughts, stepping forward. "We can work together. Sara, we can figure this out." A flicker of hope ignited within her. "You mean like a team?" "Exactly," he grinned. "We're all in this together. You're not alone, remember?" She looked back at the neighbors, who were straining to hear every word being spoken, faces painted with concern yet ready to support. One by one they nodded with encouragement, offering silent promises to stand by her side. Just as a sense of determination began to settle within her, another knock broke the moment. This time it sounded urgent and insistent. "Who is it now?" Mark asked, clearly agitated. Sara's heart raced again. Could it be more news? The way the officer was watching her, it felt like the night was darkening once more. "Stay here," Officer Reynolds instructed softly, stepping toward the door, readying himself for yet another revelation. Sara held her breath, her eyes darting to Mark. Could this be the twist, good or bad, that would change everything for her family? As Officer Reynolds swung the door open, Sara braced herself for what was next. The door creaked open, revealing a tall figure silhouetted against the morning light. It was a woman, her features sharp but softened by the concern in her eyes. She wore a crisp white coat that contrasted starkly with the gentle warmth of the home behind her. "Hello, everyone," she said, her voice smooth but firm. "I'm Dr. Henson, your mother's physician." Sara felt her heart skip. A doctor? Here? The urgency in her knock suddenly took on a new weight. "We need to discuss your mother's health further," Dr. Henson continued, stepping inside as Officer Reynolds gestured for her to enter. "There are some new developments we didn't expect." With every word, Sara's anxiety climbed. She could feel Mark's hand brush against hers, an anchor amid the rising tides of uncertainty. Nearby, the neighbors drew even closer, their expressions a mix of hope and fear. It felt like they were all holding their breath, waiting for this doctor to deliver either a lifeline or a crushing blow. "Is she okay?" Sara managed to ask, the words escaping her lips breathlessly. Dr. Henson paused, her gaze locking onto Sara's. "Your mother is stable for now, but we discovered something during her last tests." The doctor sighed, collecting her thoughts. "She needs an additional procedure. It's not uncommon in cases like hers, but it's important we address it immediately." Sara's gut twisted. She had hoped for good news, something to latch onto, and yet this felt like another weight piling onto an already heavy load. "What kind of procedure?" "It's related to her heart condition," Dr. Henson said. "She'll need a minor surgery to install a pacemaker. The good news is that it can greatly improve her quality of life." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, every other sound in the room fell away. A minor surgery, a glimmer of hope. The community around her felt like it might lift her off the ground for just a moment. Mark squeezed her hand tighter. "So she's going to get better?" Dr. Henson's expression softened. "With this procedure, yes, but we need to move quickly. Time is of the essence, and your mother needs your support now more than ever." Sara felt like the air had been knocked from her lungs. There was a bittersweet relief in knowing that there was action and hope in sight, but it was weighed down by the responsibility it demanded. "What do we do next?" she asked, her voice a bit steadier. "You'll need to make arrangements for her recovery," the doctor replied. "Home health care will be essential."
"And I can provide recommendations for support, but it will take all of you working together." It was a statement, but it felt like a plea, too. Sara looked around the room, seeing nods of encouragement from neighbors who had stepped into her life to lend strength, sharing this burden. "Okay," Sara said, determination bubbling up, her voice stronger this time. "We can do this. We will do this." As she spoke, another knock echoed through the room, this one softer but still filled with urgency. "What now?" Mark asked, glancing nervously at the door. Sara felt a spark of apprehension ignite. Who could it be? What more could possibly complicate this already turbulent day? "Stay put," Officer Reynolds instructed once again, moving toward the door. But Sara's heart raced anew as she thought about the potential answers waiting just beyond the threshold. What if this next visitor held news that could change everything once again? The quiet in the room shifted, the air thick with palpable tension as Officer Reynolds opened the door. In an instant, the faces of Sara and the gathered neighbors turned towards the entrance, curiosity mingled with fear. The sunlight streamed in behind the newcomer, casting a halo around a small figure, momentarily obscuring their features. "Who is it?" Sara whispered, her eyes narrowing in an effort to make out the details. She felt Mark's hand squeeze her tighter. His pulse matched her racing heart. As the light dimmed, the figure stepped into view. It was a young girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. Her cheeks were round, a little too pale, and her big, sad eyes seemed to radiate a deep sense of longing. She clutched a ragged teddy bear, the faded fur looking as worn as her expression. "Sara?" the girl asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Sara's heart skipped. "Yes. Do we know each other?" The girl stepped a bit closer, anxious, but it was the officer who spoke next. "This little lady found her way here from a few blocks down," he explained, kneeling slightly to meet her gaze. "She's been wandering alone for some time. Her name is Lily." Lily looked up at him, then back at Sara, her lip quivering. "I don't have anywhere to go." The simplicity of her words struck Sara like a bolt of lightning. Her mother's health crisis weighed heavily on her, but here was another life in need. It felt impossibly complicated, as if the universe was demanding she stretch herself beyond her limits. Mark leaned in slightly. "Officer, is she okay? What's wrong with her?" "She's safe," Officer Reynolds reassured, but his tone was somber. "We need to keep her here until we can contact her family or find a shelter." Sara felt the weight of responsibility pressed down on her chest. A little girl, alone and scared. How could she say no? With everything else spiraling out of control, this was a chance to help, to be that lifeline someone needed. She knelt down to Lily's level, her voice gentle. "You can stay with us, okay?"
"You're not alone anymore." Lily's anxious expression began to soften, her grip on the teddy bear loosening just a bit. "Really?" "Really," Sara promised, glancing back at the neighbors who were silently observing. Their expression showed a mix of sympathy and resolve, ready to rally together. Dr. Henson, still present in the room, looked between Sara and Lily. "Active support from your community can make a significant difference," she remarked softly. "And clearly, you're all embodying that spirit today." "But what about my mom?" Sara felt torn. There was urgency with her mother's needs looming over them, but could she really turn her back on a girl who had just shown up on her doorstep? "No one is asking you to do it all alone," Mark said, as if reading her thoughts. "We can coordinate. We'll figure this out together, just like the doctor said." With that glimmer of hope, a plan began to form in the air around them. Sara straightened, determination hardening in her chest. She could give both her mother and this girl the support they needed, even if it felt daunting. Just then, a loud thud came from the kitchen, making everyone jump. "What was that?" Mark asked, a hint of fear creeping back into his voice. Sara's heart raced again. Was there yet another complication waiting for them inside their home? She exchanged glances with Mark and hesitated. What if this was bad news? What if, after finding some sliver of joy, another shadow loomed ahead? "Let's go check," she said, breath hitching in her throat. Lily clutched the teddy bear tighter, eyes wide and understanding. Sara took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever was behind that kitchen door. Would this next moment lead to answers or more chaos? As they stepped into the kitchen, the air felt heavy, thick with uncertainty. The door creaked softly behind them, as if urging them to turn back. Sara's eyes darted across the room, searching for the source of the noise that had stolen their moment of hope. Mark trailed closely, close enough to lend quiet support as they moved. The kitchen was dimmer than she remembered. Shadows clung to the corners, and the usual sounds of home, the whirring fridge, the tapping of a spoon against a bowl, were eerily absent. As she shuffled deeper, her heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing her worries. And then she saw it. The kitchen table was overturned, the chairs scattered like fallen soldiers. A few boxes of cereal lay strewn across the floor, their contents spilling out in a messy explosion. It looked as if someone had taken refuge here, searching for something more than just food. Sara's mind raced. Had someone broken in? But just as panic threatened to take hold, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Sara?" It was her younger brother, Oliver. He stood frozen in the doorway, his expression a mixture of fear and confusion. "I thought I heard you." "Oliver!" Relief washed over Sara. She rushed to him, a giddy rush of affection and worry flooding her veins. He was safe. "What are you doing here?" He shrugged, glancing at the mess on the floor. "I came home early from school. I didn't think anyone would be here." "Why didn't you tell me?" Mark interjected, concern etched across his face as he reached for Oliver's shoulder. The boy looked down, his voice small. "I didn't want to worry you." Tears stung Sara's eyes. Her brother, with his innocence wrapped in a cloak of concern, had gone through the same turmoil she had. "You don't need to hide things from me," she reassured him, pulling him close. "We're all in this together." Lily watched from a distance, her eyes wide as she tried to piece together the new dynamics unfolding before her. It was as though she was witnessing a silent dance of sorrow and strength. Sara felt the weight of her presence and wanted to reassure the little girl too. "Sara?" Oliver's voice broke through her thoughts. "Is there a little girl with you? I heard her talking." With a gesture, Sara beckoned Lily closer. "This is Lily. She's going to stay with us for a while." Lily hesitated before taking a few steps forward, her teddy bear still clutched tightly. "Hi," she managed, her voice a whisper. "Hi," Oliver replied, his eyes curious. "Do you like pizza?" That simple question caught everyone off guard. Laughter bubbled from Sara and Mark, releasing the tension that had built like a taut string ready to snap. Lily's lips curled up slightly, and for a moment it felt as if they might mend all the broken pieces around them with the power of connection. "Pizza sounds great," Sara said, grateful for any distraction. "Let's clean this up together. We can get some from that new place near the park." As they began to pick up the mess, Sara's heart swelled. She could see the beginning of something beautiful in the chaos. Laughter bubbled up between them, with Oliver sharing tales about school and Lily giggling at his antics.
But even as laughter filled the air, Sara couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in her stomach. The mess in the kitchen wasn't just physical. It echoed the upheaval in her life. And deep down, she burned with a question. Who had been here? What was left unspoken in the shadows of their home? Just then, a knock echoed through the house, loud and jarring, sending a shiver down Sara's spine. Everyone froze, the atmosphere shifting once more into tense uncertainty. Who could it be now? Without thinking, Sara exchanged a glance with Mark, his brow furrowed with concern matching her own. Lily's eyes darted nervously, clutching her bear tightly. "Do we answer it?" Mark whispered, his voice barely audible over the drum of her heartbeat. What was waiting for them beyond the door? Could it be an answer, or a whole new complication? The knock came again, a relentless reminder that life outside their bubble continued, indifferent to their turmoil. Sara's breath hitched.
Fear and curiosity battled within her, amplified by the heavy silence wrapping around them like an unwelcome embrace. Mark took a half step toward the door, his shoulders tense. "Maybe it's just a neighbor," he said, though his voice lacked the conviction he usually wore like armor. Oliver shifted nervously, eyes darting between the door and Sara. "Do you think it's someone bad?" His voice cracked, trepidation making every syllable tremble. "No, no," Sara assured him, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her heart. "It's probably just someone trying to—" She paused, her instincts sharp. "Maybe it's someone who saw the mess and wants to help?" Lily, sensing the tension, pressed her teddy closer. "I don't want to talk to strangers," she whispered, her bravado retreating into the comfort of familiar toys. Taking a deep breath, Sara approached the door, her heart racing like it had when she'd rushed to find Oliver. She looked back, seeking reassurance in their faces. Mark was resolute, Oliver wide-eyed, and Lily appeared more uncertain than ever. "Together," Sara murmured, sensing they needed a united front. "Let's do this together." With trembling fingers, she gripped the knob and turned. The door creaked open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the fading light. A man stood there, his expression masked by shadows. "Hello," he said, his voice smooth but strained. I'm looking for Sara." Confusion struck. "That's me," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The man stepped into the light, and she recognized him. Adam, a family friend who had drifted away, but once knew them well. His eyes, usually warm, were filled with a fierce intensity, tinged with worry. "I've been trying to reach you. There's something we need to discuss." The weight of his words settled heavily in the air. "What do you mean?" "We need to talk about Mom." At the mention of their mother, Sara felt her stomach drop. It was a name now laced with both love and loss, filled with memories brighter than the harsh reality. "What do you know? Is she okay?" Adam hesitated, shifting his weight as if the words weighed him down. "It's complicated," he began, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "We have a situation." Oliver shifted closer to Sara, his eyes wide, and Lily clutched her teddy bear as if it were a lifeline. "What kind of situation?" Sara pressed, urgency sharpening her voice. She needed to protect her brother and Lily, even amidst the chaos. "The kind that changes everything," Adam replied, his expression unreadable. "And I'm here because you might need to choose what type of person you want to be." "What do you mean?" Mark asked, stepping forward protectively. "What's going on?" Adam held up a hand, calming them for a moment. He took a deep breath, and Sara could see the conflict in his eyes. "Just let me tell you everything," he said, taking a step closer. The gravity of the moment settled between them, heavy and expectant. Sara's heart raced, not knowing whether to feel dread or hope. What kind of revelation could transform their world? As Adam began to speak, Sara felt as if she stood on the edge of a precipice. The answers could lead to salvation or despair. Did she want to know? But answers were on the way, whether she was ready or not. The air thrummed with uncertainty, and Sara could only think of one thing. What would they uncover about their mother and themselves? Adam took a breath, steadying himself as if preparing to dive into deep water. "The thing is, Sara, your mom is in trouble. Bigger trouble than any of us realized." Sara's stomach nodded further. "What kind of trouble?" "She's involved in something dangerous. I don't have all the details, but it's serious." His eyes flicked to Oliver and Lily, gathering her family's fear like a tangible weight. "I came because I think you deserve to know what's happening.
You need to understand her choices. Understand her choices? Mark echoed, his voice low and dangerous. What about us? What about her family? We're all part of this, Mark, Adam replied. That's why I'm here. There are things at stake, things that could put you all in danger too. Exposure to danger couldn't have felt further from Sara's bubble of worry. The world outside had felt distant, a backdrop to their problems, but now it loomed closer, suffocating. Does she know? Sara asked, her voice trembling, teetering on the edge of hope and despair. Does she know what she's gotten into? Adam shifted, unease washing over him. I think she does, but she doesn't know how far it goes, how deep she's into it. Sara's heart clamored in her chest. The picture of her mother, vibrant and smiling at family gatherings, softened by the warm light of laughter, faltered, replaced by shadows of secrets. What do we do? First, I need you to listen to me closely. Adam paused, choosing his words as though they were a fragile glass ornament. You have to decide what kind of person you want to be. I know that sounds cryptic, but you're going to face choices, difficult ones that test your loyalty, your concept of family. It's not just about your mom. I don't understand, Oliver cried, his voice a thin wail breaking through the heated silence. Adam, just tell us what we need to know. We can handle it. Okay. Adam took a deep breath, and the room felt frozen, like time had slipped away. There's a group, a powerful group, watching your mother. They've been digging into her past, her affiliations. They know things we don't, things that could put us all at risk. If you choose to stand with her, we can fight. But if you don't, the fallout will affect you all. What kind of fight? Mark asked, steely determination replacing his earlier caution.
The kind that involves choices, who you trust, who you care about. Choosing to help your mother might mean letting go of everything you thought was safe. Adam's gaze locked onto Sara's. Or keeping your distance and hoping she can handle it alone. But I don't believe this will end well for any of us. A heavy silence hung in the air, thick with the weight of decisions unmade, futures uncharted. The sharp reality of their situation sank in, deep and overwhelming. Sara squeezed her eyes shut, preparing for the emotions, the turmoil of choices ahead. Her mother's face floated in her mind, and she felt that agonizing tug, the choice of familial loyalty conflicting with the safety of her little family. What kind of future rested on her weakest moments? Do we have to choose now? Lily whispered, her voice barely a thread, still clutching her teddy bear tightly. Sara opened her eyes and met her sister's gaze. In that moment, she saw the reflection of innocence faced with unexpected darkness. No, but we need to be ready. Decisions are coming, and they will change everything. As Sara considered the weight of Adam's revelations, she felt the ground shift beneath her. The foundation of their lives was cracking, and she had to ask herself, what would she risk to protect the family she loved? But deep down, another question burned. Was she ready to uncover the truths that could shatter them completely? As the air around them felt charged with electricity, she knew one thing: nothing would be the same again. And with that thought lingering, another knock echoed through the house, this time louder, more demanding. Sara's heart pounded, each knock resonating like a warning bell in her ears. The air felt charged with tension, a storm of uncertainties brewing inside her. Who now could it be? Did they really want answers? Or was the world preparing to tip them further into chaos? Shall I get it? Mark asked, stepping forward with determination. But before Sara could respond, he lifted his hand to signal for quiet. The knock came again, persistent and urgent. No, Sara breathed out, every instinct shouting that they needed to be united, not scattered. We'll all go. Holding Oliver's hand tightly, they stepped forward together, an unexpected team held together by the pressing need for clarity and safety. When they reached the door, Sara attempted to calm the nervous flicker of hope in her chest. On 3, she whispered, and while no one seemed to completely agree, the simple unity of action felt good. 1, 2, 3. They opened the door in unison. Standing there was a woman Sara didn't recognize at first. Her hair was pulled back tightly, revealing sharp features softened only by the warmth of a friendly smile. At her side, a service dog sat patiently, its dark eyes scanning the scene with unbridled wisdom. "Hi there," the woman said, her voice bright yet steady.
I'm Tara from the local community assistance program.
Sara felt the knot in her stomach loosen just a little. "What brings you here?" she asked, glancing back at her little group, who all shared expressions of cautious hope. Tara held up a clipboard like a lifeline ready to throw their way. "I heard about your mother's situation, and I wanted to see how we might be able to help. We've got resources for food, medical expenses, whatever you need." Building reservoirs of relief coursed through their faces. They stood there for a moment, stunned, letting the new influx of help settle into their hearts. "Seriously? You can help?" Sara's voice cracked. She felt on the verge of tears, balancing the worry and relief. "Absolutely," Tara responded, stepping across the threshold with ease. "We believe in supporting our community, especially families facing hardship. We can set you up with a care plan to assist you while your mom recovers." Mark stepped forward, his earlier resolve shining brightly in his eyes. "We'll accept any help we can get. We're just trying to pull together and support Sara's mom." Lily stepped closer, her curiosity ignited. "And what about us?" she voiced, clutching her teddy bear tightly. "Of course, little one," Tara replied, kneeling to meet Lily's gaze. "We help everyone in the family. You're all part of this journey. Meals, emotional support, even a safe place for you to call home until things settle." Sara felt the warmth expand within her, brightening the fears that had haunted her for so long. This chance was a path to transformation, a lifeline they so desperately needed. "What's the catch?" Mark asked, eyeing Tara skeptically, which was both protective and revealing. It displayed all too well the damage of trust bubbling just below the surface. "No catch," Tara reassured, her gaze steady. "We're just here to help, but it'll take teamwork. I'll need your involvement to make this effective. We can do this together." A rush of understanding flowed through Sara. The community had become an intricate web woven with care. Were they finally ready to harness that strength? "I want to help," Sara said, her voice firm. "We're stronger when we all contribute, no matter how small." Tara beamed, standing up. "That's the spirit I love to see. If you're ready, we can get started right away. Your mom will need a lot of love and care, especially now." And just like that, Sara found herself filled with purpose. The light that had flickered earlier now glimmered brightly as hope surged through her veins. In that instant, the heaviness that had previously clouded their world lifted slightly, revealing the promise of what lay ahead. They would navigate this unfamiliar territory together. The storm outside still loomed. They could feel it threatening their fragile peace. But now Sara owned a sense of agency, a power rooted in community, family, and unyielding support, a force they could all rely on. As they stepped back into the living room, certainty surged within them, mingling with the laughter of children echoing outside. They held on to that possibility, the knowledge that their new reality could shift toward healing, stand resilient amidst uncertainty, and redefine their beginnings. With hands intertwined, they placed one foot in front of the other. The new chapter awaited. And the next knock wouldn't bring fear, but a deeper understanding they were never alone again. Before you go, I need to make one thing clear. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that'll inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this journey alive. Your support makes a difference. And please, comment below to share your reactions and feelings about this powerful transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You never know who needs that little spark of hope today.